what are some tools and resources that I use every day coming up. Hello and welcome back to the Freelanceverse. Thanks for coming back to the channel. Hope you're all doing well. The year is already coming to an end. I think there are like 4 more Freelanceverse videos this year. So I wanted to make it very practical today. So I recorded earlier this morning at the gym. Actually, I hope the audio will be okay. I recorded a screen recording of the most common tools, resources I use in my translation process. I came up with 15 things. I went through my bookmarks on the laptop, to bring up the most important 15 tools that I use almost daily, but definitely weekly. And I hope it will give you some inspiration. And maybe if you are just starting out, you don't really know where to find resources, I'm going to link all of them down below in the description and you can use them as well. I hope you find this list useful, and please let me know in the comments if you have other very important resources that you use every day, because I'm always on the lookout for new things. All right, I hope you can hear me. I should be able to see the screen as well. So I just prepared my 15 resources that I use for my translation process. Some of them I use daily. Most of them I use whenever they are relevant. The first ones are German resources, so they're only relevant if you work with German. If you do work with German, you of course know the Duden. Duden is essentially the German language Bible. Everything that is in here counts. They make the rules, they make the orthography, grammar rules, etc. So this is not only a very important dictionary to look things up, it's monolingual of course, but it's also a great resource with their blog post. They have information about grammar as well, and you can also order actual paper dictionaries of them. I have quite a few of them. So you simply look up a word and then it gives you the gender, it gives you an example of the use case, it also gives you an etymology, where it's coming from, some grammatical, what's the plural and stuff. So that I always have open, I use it on a daily basis. Unfortunately, you can't use it with ad blocker anymore, so it's, as you can see, overrun by ads. I don't know why so many jewelry ads, I don't really know, but I disabled all my tracking, so they should not be able to see my preferences, so that's why it's just throwing random things at me every day. Next up is a very niche one. It's the Gabler Wirtschaftslexikon. So it's a business dictionary for German. So it's anything that I come across that is business, economy related, I can look up here. Next up, probably one of my favorite resources is the Leipzig Wortschatz from the University of Leipzig. It's basically a corpora that tells you the context in which a word is used, and it gives you, especially for prepositions in German, this is so important. Let's say there is a word that I don't really know what preposition to use with or how it is used in the context, in which context. So let's just add like gehören, for example, which means belong. Then it tells you a word graph on the right, so it tells you which words are associated with it the most. It also tells you what word it is, what type of word, what's the base form, gives you synonyms. It tells you how not to write it, and then what I really like, so this gives you in context examples in the Beispiele, and then down here it gives you words that are significant within the same sentence used. So dazu, which basically means to, like to as well. So I already know that belong to, gehören zu, dazu gehören. And then on the bottom it tells you significant neighbors, so what comes left of the word most often and what comes right of the word most often. Amazing corpora, I use it all the time. Wortschatz Uni Leipzig. Then we're moving over to the bilingual ones. Collins has always been my first love when it comes to dictionaries. When I first started my translation degree, I got a huge German to English Collins dictionary from my parents. So I don't use that anymore that much in translation. During my studies I really used the paperback version, but there it's so romantic there. You have so much time to work on a text. You can really delve into every sentence and you can look up everything, and so yeah, it's not real life. Like the translation studies is very romanticized version of what you're actually doing in real life, because if I translated like I did in my studies, I would probably earn like €5 an hour or something, so I can't afford that. So in real life you have to be much more efficient, much more quick. You are running a business in the end. that I simply use as my main dictionary. And then I also have Merriam Webster, which is a monolingual English one that I use sometimes if I need to know more about where a word comes from, but mostly I use the Collins one. But I have them both open. All these resources I told you now are in my research tab, always open. Then one that I don't have always open, that is really niche whenever I need to really know where a word is coming from, is EtymOnline. It's an online etymology dictionary. It really tells you what year a term is from, where it's coming from, what it was first called, how it changed over time. It tells you the trends of, like, the search trends of the term, so this is very niche. Then the next two ones, Linguee and Reverso, are both in context dictionaries that I look things up. For example, here the last is that I looked up is trotz ähnlicher, which is a genitive expression that means although similar. So I wanted apparently to see how this is used in context. So if you look for it, you get resources that are actually very relevant. For example, here you always see the link in the top bottom right. So this is from the EU, right? So you can kind of trust that. Of course, don't trust it immediately, because I mean they can also have mistakes on their website or in their portfolios. But you know, Roche, Finma, which is the financial oversight company in Switzerland, Hornbach, which is an outdoor German brand. So these are nice resources, and it tells you how trotz ähnlicher is used in context, and that gives you an idea of how to use it then in your text as well. Same goes for Reverso, exactly the same situation, just here they don't give you the sources, so I like the Linguee a bit better. The last dictionary I have is Dict.cc. I don't really use that too much. This is when I have to just quickly know something. But yeah, I mostly use the Collins one. I just have this also in my bookmarks, but I don't have it open all the time. One thing I use quite a lot is the two-lingual Google search. I mentioned this in my workflow video about translation. This is a really cool resource. I really like it. I would just change it to English to German, whatever language you have in, and then you can do a two-lingual Google search. So things that have been officially translated and are readily available in both languages will be shown left or right. So let's say I want to know about maximum weight allowed on airplanes. Right. Then it gives me results on the left side, like a normal Google site, and then on the right side is the respective translation, right? So that can help a lot. For example, Brussels Airlines, and then on the right side you also have Brussels Airlines, the Handgepäck translation, right? So you get a two-lingual Google search, and you can just move to the second page, and then you see. Both languages at the same time. So because sometimes I have to do a Google search in English and then one in German, and here it's done at the same time. That can save some time. I really like this. Another thing I often use is Google Scholar. It's a relatively slow website, as you can see, but that's because it probably has such a huge server behind it. This is when you want to Google peer-reviewed journal articles, so like academic papers. Let's see what comes up with maximum weight on airplanes. Of course, that will be a very different results because these are all academic papers. General aviation accidents related to exceedance of airplane weight. So if that's very interesting. It immediately goes to, I always ask myself, like, does it really have an impact on the accident rate if people have heavier baggages? So apparently this analysis from D.D. Boyd from 2016 would give you an insight, and then you also see how many times it was cited. It would immediately give you different citing options depending on the citing style guide that you're using. So if you're working with academic papers, or if you're working on a paper yourself, if you're writing a master thesis, for example, then Google Scholar is definitely a must. Then we get really into more detailed things, more specific things. This Acronym Finder I use quite a lot. As you can see, the last time I used this was for PPE. It was actually interesting because for one of my clients, this means personal protective equipment, the first response, and I think that's the general meaning of the PPE. But in this context that I was translating, it didn't make sense. First of all, because it was French, and that they don't usually use English abbreviations. And it was about apartments, like buying apartments in a building. So I came here, PPE, I looked if there is something interesting, and then I actually found it Do I find it again here? Yeah, Propriété par étage, French. So this is like it would be Stockwerkeigentum in German. In English, I don't know. I don't actually know. When you own the whole etage, the whole level of a building. So this was very useful that this was actually in here. And then I went further to verify with a Google search if this is really what that means. I came back to the Linguee Google search, changed this one to French, and then you immediately see Stockwerkeigentum is the correct translation. Then a very specific terminology tool is IATE. I never know how to pronounce it. IATE. People also pronounced it differently at TEF recently. I thought I would finally get my answer, but everyone said it differently. I'm going to go with IATE. It's the terminology system from the European Union, and there is so much in here. Like if we keep with the air travel example, air transport, and then you have like very specific terms like single engine airplane with no idea what that is, some kind of engine, and then it tells you in which directive it is from the commission, what date it is. So this is an extremely detailed terminology bank that you can use. And me being active in the sports industry and working a lot with football content, I found a glossary all about soccer terms, and it is so long and so cool. I've already found very interesting things in here, because sometimes, I listen to a lot of English football content, but sometimes you just don't know, or even don't know it in German at this point, because I listen so much English content. But this is an amazing glossary by Afford Awards. I don't know anything about them, but I just found this free glossary, so I'm using it all the time. And last but not least, what I have often open is the terminology search of Prose, and also the blue board of Prose. In the blue board, you can check if companies, especially translation agencies, are trustworthy. They should have at least 4 stars if you want to work with them. So definitely Google the agency's name and then blue board, and then there is always a link coming up. I also like the term search from Prose. Recently I looked up PII, which should be personally identifiable information. I wanted to check what that means in German, and it's apparently personenbezogene Daten and not persönliche Daten, which was in the text, so I could then change it and base it on the IT context. Of course, this is all done by users, so you can't trust this fully, but you just need to do additional research, but it's definitely a nice starting point. There you go. These are my 15 resources I use that simplify my translation process and also make it fun, because I can learn so much about the language and about the source topic and the target topic all the time. I hope this was helpful. Thanks for watching, and I see you next week again. Bye bye.